The story begins inside a classroom full of school kids where every student is buried in their books, except for our boy Tanjiro, who is extremely busy crafting a cheat note instead. He writes on it that this message is meant for the girl who sits at this desk after the class rotation ends. Just then, the bell rings. The entire batch leaves for their next period, and as soon as they exit, the students from the next class walk in. Among them is a girl named Mitsuri, who unknowingly takes the exact desk Tanjiro was using. Naturally, the little note lands straight into her hands. She doesn't open it immediately, simply tucks it away, probably thinking it's a math problem or a reminder from the previous student. This period is a math class, obviously with maximum stress and minimum joy. But the moment class ends and lunch break begins, everyone shifts into relaxation mode. Some gather to play games, others chat around, while Mitsuri heads directly to the broadcast room. She's a club member there, so she uses her break to play a cheerful song for the entire school. Later, when she returns to her bag, she finally opens the note out of curiosity and discovers Tanjiro's handwriting confessing that he really likes her. Seeing his name practically makes her soul leave her body for a second. She wonders if this is some kind of prank because the idea seems too wild to be true. Afternoon arrives and students start heading home. That's when the superstar of the school, Tanjiro himself, makes his grand entrance, an event that automatically triggers screaming from half the girls in the hallway, including Mitsuri, who quietly crushes on him like 98% of the female population. The moment he walks straight toward her, she feels her brain glitch like a computer with too many tabs open. She has no idea what to do or why he is approaching her, so just when he's about to speak, Mitsuri's friend Aaron calls her name. Mitsuri immediately grabs Aaron and runs like she's fleeing a crime scene. Aaron is confused. Tanjiro is confused. And honestly, Mitsuri is the most confused of all. Aaron has been Mitsuri's friend since kindergarten, so she wastes no time asking what Mitsuri and Tanjiro were talking about. Mitsuri tries to play it cool and says nothing happened. She adds that he's too popular to ever talk seriously to a normal girl like her anyway. Aaron then asks a hypothetical question. If Tanjiro ever proposed to you, what would you do? Aaron admits that although he's undeniably handsome, she still wouldn't date him because he's too popular, and attention from hundreds of girls is something she absolutely cannot tolerate. She says she'd rather date a normal boy. Mitsuri quietly absorbs that answer, but her brain is still doing cartwheels over the note. Once she reaches home, Mitsuri keeps rereading the confession letter like she's trying to decode a secret government message. How could Tanjiro possibly like her? They've never even had a proper conversation. She keeps pacing around, questioning if someone is pranking her. After a lot of overthinking, she finally makes a decision. Next morning, she reaches school early before anyone else shows up. She sneaks to Tanjiro's shoe shelf and places a letter apologizing and saying she cannot accept his proposal because she doesn't know him well enough. Actually, in Japan, they have a section called uwabaki shelves, where students leave their outside shoes and change into clean ones for inside the school. Basically, a system invented by people who truly hate dust. Suddenly, the scene shifts to a girl confessing to Tanjiro. As usual, he politely rejects her, saying he already likes someone else. A few nearby girls witness this and immediately start imitating him with dramatic flair, wondering who the lucky girl might be. Another group begins whispering among themselves, guessing if it might be one of them. Meanwhile, poor Mitsuri listens to all this with the mental stability of a soda bottle being shaken. When the bell rings for the math period, Mitsuri heads to her desk, trying to act normal. As soon as she sits and class begins, she finds another note inside the desk. This one says that it doesn't matter if she doesn't know him yet, they could get to know each other by dating. Reading that, Mitsuri jumps out of her seat in shock, making the teacher assume she knows the answer to the math problem. He calls on her, but poor Mitsuri doesn't even know what chapter they're on. The whole class bursts into laughter, and Aaron, concerned, waits until class ends to check on her. Aaron asks if she's alright, and Mitsuri insists she is, saying she needs to head to the broadcast room like always. Aaron offers to carry her books, just like she usually does, and wishes her good luck. Mitsuri hurries away, and Aaron starts organizing the books when Tanjiro walks in, noticing her near his desk. He looks at her with a softness that reveals everything. The notes were meant for Aaron, not Mitsuri. He mistakenly believed that the desk belonged to Aaron all along. Mitsuri, poor thing, remained blissfully unaware of the truth and kept obsessing over the absurd idea that the most popular boy in school, Tanjiro, supposedly liked her. She kept wondering how something so unbelievable could even be possible since she considered herself painfully average. After overthinking herself into a mild existential crisis, she finally sat down to write her reply where she suggested that perhaps they should begin their so-called relationship with friendship. She reasoned that Tanjiro should place his response inside the broadcast request box, because it would be far safer than leaving letters under the desk where any random student could snoop. The next day, Tanjiro kept slipping letters into the request box. He wrote that he found her incredibly cool and had been wanting to talk to her for a long time. He insisted he would not let her slip away just because she did not know him well yet, and explained that he hoped they could truly get to know each other. Reading such lines sent Mitsuri into another glamorous round of blushing. She then replied that letters would be their communication method for now, and face-to-face meetings could happen later. She placed her response near Tanjiro's shoe shelf, a task that briefly made her feel like a covert agent with questionable job satisfaction. Thanks to this, Tanjiro practically radiated sunshine all day, to the point that his best friend Haruto demanded to know why he was smiling like he had just won a lifetime supply of chocolate. Haruto even teased him that he must be crushing on someone and insisted he reveal the girl's name. But Tanjiro simply kept smiling shyly without admitting anything. The following day, when Mitsuri stepped out of the broadcast room after finishing her shift, she collided straight into Tanjiro, who had come to drop off his reply. Shocked and speechless, she froze on the spot while he apologized and asked if she was hurt. But Mitsuri could barely breathe, let alone speak, so Tanjiro simply apologized again and walked off. Once he left, she checked the request box and inside she found a notebook. In it, Tanjiro had written that from now on, they would communicate through this notebook, and once it was full, he would propose to her again and wait for her final answer, adding that he sincerely hoped she would not reject him, and then he addressed the message to Eren. Reading that single name jolted Mitsuri as if someone had unplugged her soul. It dawned on her that Eren, her childhood best friend, was actually the girl Tanjiro liked, not her. This revelation breaks her heart, but she can't understand what she will do now. The next day, Eren was giving a speech on stage as the school's top student and student council president, and Tanjiro watched her with a warm smile. Mitsuri noticed everything, and her heart sank. She returned to the broadcast room and, with a heavy heart, wrote her final answer. She explained that there had been a misunderstanding, that she was not the girl he liked, and that the person he truly meant was Eren. She returned the notebook near his shoe shelf, but before she could place it properly, she panicked when she saw Tanjiro already standing there, causing her to drop the diary and nearly lose her will to live. He helped her up and asked if she was all right. Mitsuri forced out a yes, and Tanjiro greeted her politely, recognizing her as Eren's friend. He asked if Eren had mentioned him, or if they had spoken about him. This made Mitsuri recall a conversation where Eren had casually said Tanjiro was not her type. Presently, Mitsuri replied that yes, Eren knew him. Hearing that, Tanjiro assumed she also knew about the diary and wondered if Eren had read it. Mitsuri pretended ignorance, as if this diary was some mysterious relic she'd never laid eyes on. Tanjiro then insisted that she forget the diary entirely. Trying to be helpful, Mitsuri told him not to worry because Eren would surely like him someday. Hearing this made Tanjiro's entire soul brighten. He smiled with genuine relief, saying that he felt at peace for the first time, a smile so warm Mitsuri could only stare, wondering why life was determined to make everything harder for her. At home that evening, Mitsuri made a decision. She resolved to pretend to be Rin while communicating with Tanjiro. She didn't want to break his heart, and she hoped, delusionally or heroically depending on perspective, to bring her best friend closer to him somehow. But she also feared what would happen when the truth eventually surfaced. The next day, Mitsuri left her reply near Tanjiro's shoes. When Tanjiro later found it, he lit up with the joy of someone who had just found an extra piece of chicken in his lunchbox. The reply said she was answering a day late because she had been busy. He responded that it was perfectly fine. The fact that she was talking to him made him happy enough. He asked if she thought anyone might find their secret notebook in the request box. Mitsuri, pretending to be Aaron, assured him it was safe because her friend Mitsuri, who was ironically herself, was a member of the broadcast club and had granted permission to use the box. Tanjiro found this adorable and comforting, and their secret correspondence continued daily. He wrote his complete introduction, from blood type to birth date. Mitsuri, pretending to be Aaron, responded with Aaron's actual details. Then he said his favorite music band was Harmon, and Mitsuri nearly yelled out loud because that happened to be her favorite band too. But she kept the act going, writing as Aaron that the band was indeed cool, and she could even request the broadcast club to play one of their songs during lunch if he wanted. Tanjiro replied that such a thing would make his day, and then casually mentioned his favorite restaurant, adding that he wanted to take Aaron there someday, and hoped she would like it too. The next day, Mitsuri told Aaron about that restaurant and encouraged her to visit it, secretly hoping that Aaron might accidentally run into Tanjiro there and their conversation could begin naturally. But when Mitsuri glanced out the classroom window and saw Tanjiro playing football, she forgot all strategic matchmaking plans and simply stared at him like her soul had left her body for a moment. Tanjiro noticed her stare and wondered why she was looking at him as though he were some sort of limited edition collectible, but he quickly forced himself back into his game. Later, while Mitsuri walked toward her classroom, she ran into her ex-boyfriend who was a senior and about to graduate. He attempted to talk to her about their breakup, insisting he wanted another chance, but Mitsuri did not look remotely interested in hearing any part of his emotional monologue. He finally gave up and said he wouldn't bother her anymore, walking off with the tragic energy of a rejected side character. Mitsuri headed to the broadcast room and played that rock song Tanjiro loved so much. The entire school froze in shock, wondering what sort of rebellious mood the broadcast club had entered. Meanwhile, Tanjiro felt ridiculously happy, as if someone had just played his personal theme song. Their diary exchanges continued smoothly, secret messages, hidden replies, and nervous anticipation becoming part of their daily ritual. One day, Mitsuri's friend asked if she was free. When Mitsuri said yes, she was dragged along to hang out with several boys from another class. Mitsuri felt slightly uncomfortable until she spotted Tanjiro there, which instantly converted her discomfort into surprise and quiet joy. After introductions, everyone sat down, and Tanjiro deliberately chose the seat right beside her. The group began chatting and laughing, unaware of the emotional acrobatics happening inside Mitsuri's chest. Sometime later, Haruto, Tanjiro's best friend, remarked that he wished Aaron had joined them because her presence would have made the meetup more fun. He then glanced knowingly at Tanjiro. In reality, this entire gathering had been planned by Tanjiro and Haruto just so Tanjiro might meet Aaron. Unfortunately, Aaron did not show up, and the plan failed gracefully. Meanwhile, Yuko, one of Mitsuri's close friends, assumed Haruto must like Aaron since he kept asking about her. Soon the conversation shifted to the rock song played earlier in school. The girls complained it was strange and said they disliked that type of music. Mitsuri sat there, panicking internally about what to say, and ended up awkwardly laughing along just to blend in. Tanjiro did not appreciate that at all. He stated firmly that he loved that style of rock, so perhaps they shouldn't insult it. Instantly, one girl declared that if Tanjiro liked it, then from today onward, it would also be her favorite song, a moment that made Mitsuri silently question humanity's survival instincts. Everyone eventually resumed singing together. Later, when Mitsuri stepped outside to get something cold to drink, Tanjiro approached her and asked if that was truly her nature. Confused, she asked what he meant. He told her that the rock song had been requested by her friend Aaron because Aaron liked that music. He asked why she hadn't spoken up when people mocked her friend's taste, and wondered aloud if she felt ashamed or insulted. He even added with rather unnecessary sharpness that she behaved like a fake friend. Hearing him say such things left Mitsuri stunned. He continued, saying that he disliked girls like her and found them irritating. That last line struck Mitsuri directly in the heart. She became upset and tried to hold herself together. Yuko saw her and asked if she was okay, but Mitsuri brushed it off and excused herself to the washroom. The moment she entered, she broke down emotionally, hurt by the harsh words of the very boy she secretly liked. Meanwhile, after speaking so bluntly, even Tanjiro began feeling guilty. When Mitsuri returned and made an excuse to head home early, Tanjiro also told everyone he was leaving. The two ended up walking together, though Mitsuri intentionally walked behind him, wanting distance. Tanjiro turned and asked why she was avoiding him, and then he apologized sincerely for his behavior earlier. He admitted that she was Eren's friend, the same friend who had allowed them to use the request box, and therefore he should not have spoken so harshly. Mitsuri told him it was fine, but Tanjiro looked at her and asked if fine was truly all she had to say. No anger, no scolding, nothing else. Then, in a gentler tone, he told her that she shouldn't force herself to agree with others. He said that if she felt angry, she should express it. If she felt like laughing, she should laugh. If she wanted to speak up, she should do so without fear. He added that she always seemed to prioritize others' happiness, saying yes to whatever people wanted just to avoid trouble, but that this habit would eventually allow the world to walk all over her. He encouraged her to be brave and voice her own opinions. Mitsuri said, "Okay," and Tanjiro joked that talking like this made him feel as if he were her teacher, giving her life lectures. Mitsuri couldn't help laughing and teased that he sounded exactly like their math teacher. Tanjiro almost panicked at that comparison and immediately insisted that she should never compare him to that terrifying man. Both of them ended up laughing, and right then a ball rolled toward them. Two little kids ran over to get it, and Tanjiro returned the ball with a fancy spin move that looked so smooth it could have been part of a sports commercial. Mitsuri was instantly impressed and asked how he pulled that off. Tanjiro told her that he had once been a really good soccer player and that becoming a professional had been his dream. He trained every single day with full determination, but circumstances forced him to give up that dream. Hearing this made Mitsuri genuinely sad, so Tanjiro lightly squeezed her cheeks and asked why she looked so gloomy. The next second, he burst into loud laughter and said she looked extremely cute when she made that sad face. That one comment was enough to make Mitsuri blush bright red. He continued, explaining that he had a little sister and an elderly grandmother. His mother had passed away when he was young, so he had stepped into all the responsibilities far earlier than he wanted to. His grandmother was now on complete bed rest, which left him managing the entire household alone. That was also why he had been forced to quit pursuing his soccer dreams. Mitsuri felt even more sympathy for him after hearing everything. Tanjiro sighed and said he would probably spend the rest of his life without chasing any dream. Mitsuri instantly disagreed and said that if he wanted something, he could still make it happen. She told him not to give up, that one day the right time would come and he should be prepared for it. Hearing her speak with such sincerity made Tanjiro stare at her in surprise, as if her words reminded him of something or someone. He was about to ask her something, but Mitsuri quickly changed the subject, pretending she was simply motivating him and saying her words probably sounded strange anyway. She walked off in a slightly flustered hurry, and Tanjiro stood there watching her leave, still wondering why her words felt oddly familiar. The next day, Mitsuri, Eren, and Yuko sit together discussing what they wanted to do with their futures. Eren confidently announced she planned to become a lawyer. Yuko said she was going to focus on finding her future life partner. Mitsuri, however, admitted she still had no idea what she wanted to do next. Meanwhile, Tanjiro and Haruto look at the basketball trophy that would be awarded to the tournament winners. Motivated by the encouragement Mitsuri had given him earlier, Tanjiro decided to enter the competition and began practicing intensely with his friends. While they were practicing, Mitsuri and Yuko arrived to watch. Haruto greeted them warmly and immediately asked about Eren. Hearing Eren's name again made Yuko visibly deflate. She liked Haruto, yet he always asked about Eren. What she did not realize was that Haruto only asked because Tanjiro wanted updates about Eren, not because Haruto himself was interested. Later, Yuko confessed her feelings to Mitsuri and asked if she could help her get a little closer to Haruto, but begged Mitsuri to keep this a secret from Eren. Mitsuri agreed. Meanwhile, members of a strong basketball team that Tanjiro used to play with approached him and asked whether he was seriously joining the competition this time. He said yes, though deep inside he felt anxious about whether he could actually win. Mitsuri noticed his nervous energy and headed straight to the broadcast room. She played a powerful "Don't Give Up" rock track from the same crazy band she and Tanjiro both loved. The moment Tanjiro heard it, he instantly felt uplifted, almost like someone had just handed him emotional fuel. Yuko also got energized listening to it and decided she wouldn't give up on Haruto either. When Mitsuri returned to class, some girls questioned why she kept playing such weird old songs lately. They were clearly mocking her music choices. Erin immediately defended her friend, saying everything Mitsuri played was wonderful and motivational. The girls fell silent, and Mitsuri felt touched by Erin's support. Tanjiro continued working even harder for the competition, reading the encouraging messages Mitsuri had previously written in the diary. The next day, Haruto approached Yuko and invited her to the amusement park, saying his dad had given him some tickets. Yuko brightened until Haruto casually added that she should bring Rin as well and that Tanjiro would be joining too. Her excitement collapsed instantly. Later, disappointed, Yuko confided everything to Mitsuri, saying she thought Haruto had wanted to spend time with her, but it was clear he only wanted her help to get closer to Eren. She suggested that Mitsuri should also come along, since 5 tickets were available. If more people came, it wouldn't look like a date. After a bit of convincing, Mitsuri agreed. The amusement park scene opened with Mitsuri standing there all dressed up, waiting for the others. Tanjiro arrived first. He took one look at her and immediately told her she looked different today in her casual outfit, cuter, in fact. Then he started admiring her hairstyle, lightly touching her hair with a smile that he clearly didn't bother hiding. Mitsuri felt her heart warm when she saw Tanjiro smiling at her, but the moment was interrupted when Eren appeared and called out her name. Tanjiro immediately turned toward Eren, and Mitsuri almost stopped breathing, terrified that the entire secret might collapse right there. Eren introduced herself politely, and Mitsuri scrambled to twist the conversation in a different direction before anything suspicious surfaced. Tanjiro behaved completely normal and introduced himself back, which gave Mitsuri a momentary sense of relief. Soon, Haruto and Yuko arrived as well, and the entire group headed off to enjoy the rides. From roller coasters to spinning wheels, they tried everything with wild enthusiasm. The roller coaster turned out to be everyone's favorite. Even Mitsuri screamed so loudly that one tourist thought an exotic bird had escaped the zoo, a joke Tanjiro made so casually that Mitsuri almost choked, laughing. Later, they recorded videos on another ride and then headed to the game zone. After several attempts, Tanjiro finally won a plush toy, earning cheers from the rest. They continued hopping from ride to ride until all of them were exhausted and collectively decided it was time for lunch. While they ate, Mitsuri couldn't help noticing how naturally Eren and Tanjiro were getting along, and the sight made her chest tighten painfully. After lunch, they played rock, paper, scissors to choose who would throw out the trash. By fate's mischievous sense of humor, the responsibility fell on Tanjiro and Mitsuri, so the two walked off together. Tanjiro casually asked her which drink she preferred. Mitsuri, still nervous, told him any drink would be fine. He returned with a red bean drink and gently pressed the cold can against her cheek before handing it to her. That single gesture made Mitsuri blush so visibly that she wished gravity would hurry up and swallow her whole. As she sipped the drink, Tanjiro pointed out that she never expressed her preferences, probably because she feared people might think she was different. He reminded her again that she should stop hiding her opinions and speak openly without fear. Mitsuri apologized softly, and Tanjiro lightly squeezed her cheeks again, laughing because he genuinely adored watching her flustered expressions. He even handed her the plush toy he won earlier, saying she could keep it. Then he leaned a bit closer and mentioned that something was on her face. Mitsuri panicked trying to figure out which side he meant, so he gently touched the exact spot and showed her, grinning the whole time. His warmth made her feel unexpectedly comfortable around him. Evening fell, and the 5 friends rode the flying horse carousel together. Once again, Mitsuri felt a sting in her heart as she watched Tanjiro and Eren talk happily beside her. She grew quiet, battling that familiar heaviness of jealousy and helplessness, because deep down, she believed Tanjiro would eventually choose Eren. Later at home, she tried several times to write the truth in the diary that she was not Eren, and that she liked him, but every time she started, her courage cracked and she stopped. The next day at basketball practice with her friends, Mitsuri struggled badly and apologized for ruining the rhythm. Her friends reassured her that she would improve slowly. Later, in the broadcast room, her ex-boyfriend Yano appeared and handed her his old CDs, saying he was donating them. He also gave her a book, mentioning that she had a strong voice and should consider becoming a voice artist someday. Mitsuri quietly accepted the items and went home. That night, she opened the book and practiced aloud, trying to sharpen her pronunciation. The next morning, the teacher congratulated her for topping English. Eren was excited for her, while Tanjiro looked genuinely distressed because his own grades in English were terrible, and he feared he might fail the finals. He hurried to Mitsuri, almost pleading for help, saying he had heard she topped English and could she please teach him so he wouldn't fail. Mitsuri agreed. Later, she waited for him in the library, and when he finally arrived, he asked in the most casual tone if they could study at his house instead. Mitsuri nearly fainted at the suggestion, wondering if she heard him correctly. He explained that his father came home late and he didn't like leaving his sick grandmother and younger sister alone. Only then did Mitsuri agree to study there. As they were about to walk outside, they unexpectedly ran into Yano again. He was stunned to see Mitsuri with the most popular boy in school. He greeted her and said he wanted to give her something important. He handed her a file containing information about professional voice artist classes. Tanjiro's expression darkened noticeably during the exchange, clearly displeased with the way Yano was talking to Mitsuri. Once Yano walked away, Tanjiro immediately asked if that man was her ex-boyfriend. She admitted he was. Tanjiro tried to glance through the file out of curiosity, but Mitsuri snatched it away before he could read anything, leaving him even more suspicious and just a little bit annoyed. The two of them were walking together and eventually they reached Tanjiro's house. The moment they stepped inside, his little sister completely misread the situation and began announcing with dramatic excitement that her brother had finally brought his girlfriend home. Tanjiro laughed at her theatrics and then introduced Mitsuri to his grandmother. Soon after, the scene shifted to Tanjiro's room, where Mitsuri looked genuinely delighted. She kept glancing around, noticing how his posters matched the style she had in her own room, almost as if fate had decided to give them matching interior decor. Tanjiro looked effortlessly handsome as he sat down and asked if she could teach him how to form sentences properly. Mitsuri stared at him for a second too long before forcing herself to focus and explain each grammar rule carefully. But every time Tanjiro looked up to ask a question, Mitsuri forgot the English alphabet altogether and simply kept staring back. Teaching your crush turned out to be far more emotionally hazardous than any textbook had prepared her for. He finally asked why she seemed so distracted, and she quickly insisted that nothing was wrong. At that moment, his sister Minnie entered with tea and casually asked which one of them confessed their feelings first. Mitsuri nearly choked in sheer panic while Tanjiro calmly continued his sentence-forming exercise as if he hadn't heard a thing. Minnie chatted for a moment and then left, and as soon as she did, Mitsuri found herself staring at him all over again. Later, Tanjiro walked Mitsuri home, thanking her for all the help. On the way, he spotted a basketball court and suddenly dragged her toward it. He encouraged her to shoot a basket, despite her immediate protests. She threw the ball, and of course it completely missed, prompting her to declare that she was hopeless at the sport. Tanjiro admitted that he already knew this because he had secretly watched her practice earlier, a confession that somehow embarrassed her even more. He insisted on teaching her, since she was helping him with English, and stepped close behind her to guide her movements. Mitsuri froze instantly, unable to move an inch because he was far too close, far too handsome, and far too distracting for her nervous system to remain functional. Mitsuri backed away shyly so he wouldn't notice how nervous she was, and Tanjiro looked confused for a second before demonstrating the technique from a distance. He asked her to imagine the hoop as a rice bowl and toss the ball inside it. Mitsuri copied him exactly, and slowly she began improving. As always, he encouraged her patiently, telling her she only needed confidence. Then he shared something much heavier, the story of how his father once hit him during a fight about quitting basketball, and how deeply that moment had broken him. Someone's encouraging words had helped him stand back up again, and he told Mitsuri she shouldn't give up easily either. Days passed like this, with both of them writing in their secret diary. Meanwhile, Yano returned to the broadcast room, saying goodbye to everyone. He had been the previous podcaster, and since this was his final year, the sight of Mitsuri's handwriting on the board reminded him how badly he wanted to win her back. Meanwhile, Tanjiro arrived with Haruto in Mitsuri's class and called out Rin's name. Eren asked why they were there, and Haruto claimed that Tanjiro had wanted to come, though Sato immediately denied it and said he only needed her history book. Eren handed it over. Just then, Mitsuri and Yuko entered. Yuko playfully teased Haruto, while two girls excitedly whispered to Mitsuri, asking if Eren and Tanjiro were secretly dating, since Tanjiro seemed to have come especially for her. Hearing this made Mitsuri's chest tighten with sadness. She walked toward the broadcast room, but there she ran into Yano, who asked if they could talk. At the same time, Tanjiro arrived to show her his English marks, which had improved but froze when he saw her with Yano and quietly stepped out of sight. Yano asked if she was dating Tanjiro. Mitsuri said they were only good friends, and for some reason that answer hit Tanjiro harder than expected. Yano then suggested they try dating again, saying he wanted one last chance. Mitsuri hesitated, and Tanjiro, hearing this, walked away angrily. Her final answer to Yano was not revealed yet. Later that night, Mitsuri read Tanjiro's message thanking her because his English marks had improved. She told herself this meant their study sessions were ending. Feeling troubled, she messaged Eren saying she needed to tell her something extremely important the next day. She had finally decided to confess everything. The next morning, Mitsuri waited for Eren, but before she could speak, two girls cornered Eren and questioned her excitedly, asking if she finally got a boyfriend since they had seen her laughing with a boy earlier. Eren told them he wasn't her boyfriend, but someone who liked her and wanted to take her out. When they asked what she replied, Etten said that he was a good person with no girlfriend, so she had accepted. Everyone was shocked, including Mitsuri, who felt the ground slip from beneath her. Mitsuri reacted instantly, blurting out that Eren shouldn't have agreed so quickly, especially when someone else had been liking her for a long time. Eren couldn't understand a thing, while Mitsuri was actually referring to Tanjiro. But Yuko misread everything completely. She assumed Mitsuri was exposing Haruto's feelings and snapped at her, reminding her sharply that she had specifically asked Mitsuri not to mention anything to Eren. Mitsuri stammered that she wasn't even talking about Haruto, which only confused Eren further. Eren questioned what exactly they were discussing, and Yuko, already irritated, accused Eren of acting overly close with Haruto and now preparing to go out with another boy. With that, the argument escalated exactly the way volcanic eruptions do, unexpectedly fast and out of control. Eren hit back, saying Yuko was simply jealous, but she wanted to make it very clear that she had no interest in Haruto whatsoever. Mitsuri attempted to intervene, but Yuko silenced her harshly, prompting Eren to throw a few more sharp lines back. Yuko retaliated with her own dramatic bitterness before storming to her seat. Just like that, the trio's friendship spiraled into a chaotic mess. When class ended, Yuko refused to even look at Mitsuri, while Eren deliberately ignored Yuko. Watching her friends behave like disconnected planets drifting away from each other left Mitsuri feeling miserable. She sat quietly, wondering how everything fell apart, when Tanjiro arrived and noted with playful mock frustration that he had been searching for her everywhere. But he immediately sensed her sadness and asked why she looked so upset. Mitsuri refused to explain, so he gently took her hand and led her to the rooftop, insisting she breathe the fresh air. There, she finally broke down and revealed that her friends were fighting, and she admitted that she had also been hiding something important from one of them. Tanjiro told her she needed to be honest with her friend and get the weight off her chest. He then suggested she try yelling loudly, like he did. Apparently, shouting into the wind was his preferred method of therapy. Mitsuri protested at first, but after enough encouragement, she finally yelled with all her might. Tanjiro joined in enthusiastically, both of them shouting nonsense into the air until they burst into laughter. The release made Mitsuri feel lighter, and seeing her smile made Tanjiro happy too. Before leaving, he affectionately told her she was a good girl, a comment that left her standing there, slightly stunned. After this, two of them were studying together when Tanjiro casually asked about her breakup with Yano. Mitsuri explained that Yano had confessed his feelings, and she had accepted because she thought she might eventually develop feelings too, but it never happened. Realizing this, Yano ended things. Tanjiro advised that next time someone confessed to her, she should be brave and express her real feelings instead of staying quiet. If she felt too nervous to speak, he suggested she simply shout the truth, which, unsurprisingly, immediately made the atmosphere awkward. Mitsuri suddenly asked if he truly liked Eren that much. She wanted to know how deeply he felt for her. Tanjiro froze, stared at her, and then, compelled by something he himself didn't understand, leaned in and kissed her. Mitsuri was so stunned she pushed him away instinctively. He apologized quickly, saying he hadn't meant for it to happen. Mitsuri told him she wouldn't tell Eren about it. Tanjiro said nothing else and walked away silently. That night, both of them were sleepless, one replaying the kiss in confusion, the other in anguish. The next day at school, after class ended, Mitsuri went to the broadcast room, while Eren continued ignoring Yuko. Yuko couldn't bear the tense silence anymore and went to the broadcast room, requesting a song. Mitsuri played it. It was an apologetic track, because Yuko desperately wanted to fix their broken friendship. She turned to Mitsuri and apologized for shouting at her. Mitsuri smiled and apologized too. Hearing the song and their voices, Eren ran in and immediately apologized to Yuko as well. Yuko apologized back, and the three of them hugged tightly, their friendship fully restored thanks to Yuko for taking the first step. Later, the three friends were laughing together during lunch, excited for the next day's basketball competition. Suddenly, Eren heard a noise from outside. Curious, she checked and discovered that someone had placed something inside the request box. It was Tanjiro secretly dropping the diary inside, but now the diary had landed straight into Eren's hands. Mitsuri froze, staring at her friend holding the very book she had been so desperately trying to protect. Before she could snatch it back, Eren had already flipped it open and read everything, how Mitsuri had been using Eren's name all this time to talk to Tanjiro. A wave of guilt hit Mitsuri so hard she could barely breathe. She bolted out of the room and collapsed on a bench in the hallway, crying the way someone cries after dropping their phone face down on concrete, uncontrollably and with a mix of regret and self-blame. She had wanted to tell Eren the truth in her own way, at her own time, but fate clearly had other ideas, and everything fell apart within seconds. The school buzzed with excitement because the games tournament had officially begun. Everyone was cheering, running around, and competing. Haruto met Yuko and teased that if he won today, he would finally confess something to her. Yuko answered with equal energy, saying she'd confess something too if she won. Then she left with her friends, absolutely unaware that Destiny was preparing for a full dramatic plot twist later. Soon, Mitsuri's basketball match began. Tanjiro arrived to watch. Mitsuri was still not playing well, but during the final moment, Eren passed her the ball. Mitsuri remembered Tanjiro's training, especially that weird rice ball imagination trick, and threw the ball exactly the way he had taught her. To everyone's surprise, the ball went in, and her team won. All three friends celebrated wildly. Tanjiro's smile seeing her victory was so bright it reminded me of those viral clips of his face that melt the internet every time. Next was the boys' football competition. Tanjiro was giving his best, Haruto was playing great too, but in the final moment, when Tanjiro passed the ball to Haruto, Haruto missed the shot. Their team lost. Tanjiro looked disappointed, but it wasn't his fault he had played well. Haruto, however, was completely heartbroken. He sat in a corner, sulking like someone whose ice cream fell before the first bite. Yuko approached him gently, telling him it was okay. Then she casually asked if he had planned to confess to Rin after winning. Haruto didn't say anything. Yuko sighed in relief and said that it was for the best he had lost because she had something to confess to, and she immediately expressed her feelings for him. And that made Haruto even more upset because he misunderstood that Yuko liked Eren. He muttered that he had lost the game and lost the girl, which shocked Yuko. She realized Haruto had liked her all along, but she had never noticed his feelings. While that chaos unfolded, Mitsuri arrived, and her ex-boyfriend began talking to her instead. He said she had changed a lot. Mitsuri asked what he meant. The thing is, when Yano had confessed again, Mitsuri had refused him directly, something she could never do before. In the past, she struggled to speak her mind, but now she has gained confidence. Yano wished her luck for her future and walked away. After school ended, Eren came downstairs and found Mitsuri waiting for her. Mitsuri immediately apologized for the secret diary situation. Eren reminded her that they had been together since kindergarten, back when Eren used to cry every day, and Mitsuri was the one who always encouraged her. She couldn't understand why Mitsuri thought she would get angry over something so small. Hearing that, Mitsuri broke down and cried again. Eren returned the diary to her, showing that she wasn't upset at all and had forgiven her completely. Later that night, Mitsuri sat with all of Tanjiro's letters and the diary, reading through everything. Finally, she wrote her own letter, the full truth, and the next day placed it under his desk. Her friends wished her luck on the way to the broadcast room, telling her she could do it. That gave her courage. After the class switched, Tanjiro found the letter and stepped outside to read it alone. Meanwhile, Mitsuri started her broadcast show, which everyone was listening to. She explained that she had always played request songs, but today she would play her personal favorite and turned on the loudest rock song from her favorite band. The entire school jumped in surprise, teachers included, because it sounded more like a festival than a morning broadcast. Yano was shocked hearing Mitsuri's favorite song. Eren smiled, and Yuko and Haruto, now a couple, were enjoying it too. But Tanjiro had already finished reading Mitsuri's confession and started running at full speed. In the letter, Mitsuri had written everything, including that she was not Eren but Mitsuri, and that she knew he would probably hate her now. But she admitted she had felt helpless with herself because she genuinely loved talking to him from the very beginning. She confessed in her letter that she had liked him since the start, and once she finally came close to him, she simply couldn't push him away, even if she knew she should have stepped back. Meanwhile, Yuko had taken Haruto aside and asked him the question that had been bothering her for days: the identity of the girl Tanjiro actually liked. Haruto revealed the biggest twist so casually it felt like he was announcing the weather. Tanjiro didn't like any girl at all. He had only been searching for the person who wrote those motivational lines on the desk, words telling him to never stop and never give up. Those words had guided him during some of the toughest phases of his life. But everyone, including Haruto, had mistakenly assumed the girl was Eren. Yuko stood there stunned, as if reality had slapped her with a plot twist she wasn't prepared for. At the same time, Tanjiro reached Mitsuri, running at full speed, and demanded to know if she was joking with him. Mitsuri quietly replied that she was sorry, but it was the truth. Tanjiro, overwhelmed, asked how she could be so utterly clueless, how she still hadn't understood anything. His voice had risen enough that Mitsuri instinctively stepped back, accidentally bumping against the mic switch. The mic turned on, broadcasting their entire conversation across the school. The moment the students heard his voice, everyone leaned in with twice the curiosity of a gossip-loving auntie. Tanjiro told her that despite all the confusion, he couldn't believe she wanted to step away. He asked how she still didn't realize his true feelings. Mitsuri blinked, completely lost, so he finally shouted it loud enough to make the whole school gasp. He liked her, only her. The sound of cheering from classrooms echoed through the hallways as students celebrated the sudden public love confession. Haruto got so carried away by the atmosphere that he loudly declared his love for Yuko as well, turning the school corridors into a spontaneous romantic festival. Tanjiro and Mitsuri stared at each other until an ear-splitting feedback screech from the mic reminded Mitsuri that it was still on. She hurried and turned it off, terrified now that the entire school had heard everything. But Tanjiro burst into uncontrollable laughter, as if destiny itself had decided to host this spectacle for them. He began explaining how everything had truly started from those lines she had written on the desk. Those words about persistence, courage, and chasing dreams. He said there had been additional lines too, ones she probably forgot she wrote, about how dreams may not be immediately achievable, but should never be abandoned because one day the right moment would arrive. Those words, he said, had changed his entire life. He admitted he had been searching for the girl behind those messages ever since. Seeing Eren at that desk had made him assume she was the one. But later, when Mitsuri unknowingly repeated the exact same motivational lines he'd read long ago, he felt a growing suspicion. Then came the real proof, the little teddy bear drawing on the broadcast board outside the clubroom, the same style Mitsuri used in the secret diary. From that moment, he knew for certain that Mitsuri was the girl he had been searching for. He explained how furious he had been with himself for misidentifying her. He had wanted to confront her immediately, but didn't have the courage to risk hearing her rejection. He admitted he had been waiting, hoping Mitsuri would confess the truth herself. Besides, talking to her had become something he genuinely enjoyed, so he kept the act going on purpose. He added that even at the amusement park, he had already known everything, which is why he hadn't asked Eren anything. His attention had been entirely on Mitsuri. When he visited her classroom, he clarified that it wasn't for Eren at all. It was always for Mitsuri. Teaching her basketball, standing close, teasing her cheeks, all of it was because he wanted to be near her. because her smile made him feel strangely peaceful. The kiss, he admitted, had happened because he had clearly seen love for him in her eyes, and in that moment he couldn't control himself. Afterwards, he regretted acting impulsively, but he said it was nearly impossible to pretend indifference towards someone you care about so deeply. Mitsuri stood there stunned, unable to process that Tanjiro had felt all of this, while she had assumed the opposite. He finally asked her for her answer, what she felt about him, whether she liked him too. She remained silent for a while, overwhelmed. But then she took a deep breath and said she wouldn't stay quiet anymore. She shouted that she liked him too, and in fact, she liked him even more than he liked her. Tanjiro laughed joyfully, calling her brave, and pulled her into a tight hug. After looking at her gently, he kissed her. Fast-forwarded a few years into the future, where Mitsuri had become a successful radio jockey, guiding students and encouraging them to use diaries to express their emotions. Tanjiro was still with her, waiting as always, discussing what speech they should give at Yuko and Haruto's wedding. And with that, warm and story came to its close.